The alternative experience.
The alternative experience.
The alternative experience.
Hey everybody, Nicky Joe here. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So today's podcast is something that I think is extremely important for everybody to understand. It's something that I sort of use in my coaching courses. I'm giving a lot of my coaching course away, that's for sure. But basically, it's the circadian rhythm. I don't know if you guys out there are aware of what this is, but today I'm going to give you an introduction to this incredible cycle. It's basically getting to know your body's 24-hour cycle. So what a lot of people don't understand, especially people that suffer with their sleep, the secret to a good night's sleep begins the moment that you wake up. It's so true. When it's working optimally, your body's internal clock, otherwise known as your circadian rhythm, is finely tuned to ensure that you wake up and feel energized, mentally focused throughout your entire day. It also moderates the release of hormones and chemicals, which are vital for optimizing your immune function, your ability to move, and even your grip strength. And I don't know if people are aware, your grip strength is a good marker for your longevity and how long you're going to live, the aging process. It's also one of the main contributing factors, the circadian rhythm, to the quality of sleep that you're going to experience. Unfortunately, most of you reading this will not be experiencing an optimized circadian rhythm. Late nights, poor sleep, binging Netflix, artificial light, social media, lack of sun exposure, alcohol, snoozing the alarm, all of these things have an extremely detrimental effect. So what is the circadian rhythm exactly? What does it entail? Well, it is simply your body's full 24-hour cycle, and it plays a vital part in many of the systems and functions related to your sleep, your energy, mood, focus, temperature and chemical release. And although it can be looked at as a 24-hour cycle, it's really, really important to note that how you experience your previous 24-hour cycle has an enormous impact on how you're going to experience the next one. So let's say you generally wake up at, say, 7 a.m. At around 5 a.m., your body temperature is going to gradually begin to rise. And in this 2-hour period, it's going to rise between 1 and 3 degrees. And that basically is sending a signal to your body to stop the natural production of melatonin. And that is your internal clock sending the signal that it will soon be time for you to wake up and to start your day. Now, this gradual rise in your body temperature, that serves as a way to gently wake you from your deep sleep pattern, and it eventually primes you to get out of bed. However, once you're out of bed, this is where the problem usually begins. For most of us, the first thing we do upon waking up is turn on the artificial lights in our home before reaching for a cup of coffee. And we're starting our natural circadian rhythm far too late in the day. And the knock-on effects are devastating for a number of reasons. And I'm going to cover that in today's podcast. So once every 24 hours, every single one of us gets a large release of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. It's non-negotiable. You're going to have this release no matter what happens. And that release of cortisol is what sets in action a chemical wave throughout your body, which is vital to your circadian rhythm. If you experience this cortisol release too late in the day, understandably, this is going to wreak havoc with your entire day, and it's even going to affect your ability to sleep later that night. So while cortisol is known as a stress hormone, as mentioned, oftentimes, for good reason, at the wrong time, it is not good to have in your system. When it's elevated at the right time, it sets in motion the release of this chemical wave, which continues throughout your day, leading to more energy, higher levels of immune function, more focus, increased metabolism, and even an improved ability to move your body. Now, the right time for this cortisol to be elevated is first thing in the morning upon waking up. One way to ensure this cortisol release happens is to view bright light, ideally sunlight, within 60 minutes of waking. there aren't really many lights out there, artificial lights, that can mimic this. So sunlight really is the one that you need. Now, sunlight boosts that cortisol release by around about 50%, as does exercise, although it is more optimal to practice exercise around about 90 to 120 minutes after you wake up. It's also important to abstain from caffeine for around about the same period. So if you're someone that wakes up and drinks coffee, I would personally recommend that you try and push that back by an hour and a half if you can. Now, ingeniously, the release of this cortisol also sets an internal timer for you to become sleepy around 16 hours later. So if you can do this early in the day, it's going to start that hormonal circadian rhythm, and it's also going to give you a release of adrenaline, testosterone, and when the time is right, melatonin. Now, back in our hunter-gatherer days, which is something that I refer to in almost all of our all of my content, all of my podcasts, all of my coaching courses, etc., we would have been living a great deal of our lives outdoors. And as such, our circadian rhythm would have been finely tuned for optimization. If not, it could have actually been the difference between life or death. In fact, our bodies are so highly tuned to this. You know, the beautiful oranges, blues, yellows, reds that you see in the morning sky before, as that sun's coming up and during the sunrise? Well, that actually signals to your circadian rhythm that it's time to be awake. It actually sets off signals in the brain that tells you that it's time to awake. And it also does this in reverse during a sunset. Now, it is a 24-hour cycle, and we want it to work in line with our own. You don't want that 24-hour cycle to be at odds with your sort of normal waking day. And as such, we do need to ensure that it's activated within 60 minutes of waking up. So to activate your circadian rhythm, simply go outside as soon as you wake up and get sun exposure on your face and in your eyes. If you can watch the full sunrise, this is the best method. The reason being is you get to experience that color palette that I've mentioned just now, but also low solar sun is not too hot or too bright for us to actually look at. So you can look almost directly at it at that stage. And even on a cloudy day or a rainy day, you can achieve this. So on a sunny day, it's going to take around about 5 to 10 minutes of exposure. On a cloudy day, about 10 to 20 minutes. And on a rainy day, like a really, really overcast day, you can still achieve it, but in about 30 minutes. But it's important to note that it's not going to work through windows, windshields, and certainly not with sunglasses. So leave those indoors. So to receive the level exposure required, you must be getting direct sun exposure by looking toward the sun. Obviously, try not to look directly at it unless you are seeing it as it pops up over the horizon. That's not as bad. But it's not some kind of woo-woo magic. This genuinely is grounded in the core of your own physiology and biology. There are thousands and thousands of research papers on the impact of natural light and your physiology, and it is a very well documented, very powerful, has a very, very sort of powerful impact on your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep later that day. So if you wake up before the sun is out, put on bright lights to help you to wake and ensure that you get to kind of, I suppose, to bridge that gap. It's not going to do the job of the sun, but it might bridge the gap. But just ensure that you get out into the sun as soon as you possibly can. Artificial lights, as I've mentioned, are not bright enough to replace the sun, but they might help to just bridge the gap if you are someone that wakes up very, very early. We need lots of light. I mean, lots and lots of photons, and that takes thousands of lumens, something that domestic house lights just can't really achieve. So with constant practice, you're actually going to begin to feel the increase in energy, the increase in focus. It is a very noticeable sort of phenomenon, and it doesn't take long. You're also going to feel the change in the hours leading up to bedtime. You're going to feel much more ready for that night's sleep, even if you are usually a night owl. As long as you don't in the evening, when it starts getting dark, put loads of bright lights on. Try and use low lumen lamps if you can. When it comes to consistency, try and do it every day if you can. However, like I say with every practice, aim for a minimum of 80% of your days. If your climate doesn't afford you the opportunity, you can buy quite expensive lights that mimic the sun. They're not cheap. Or you can buy cheaper options such as ring lights. They're not going to be as effective. They're not going to work as well as that ball of flames in the sky, but they will be better than nothing. So the next phase of your circadian clock is movement. around about 120 minutes after you activate your circadian rhythm, so 120 minutes after you get up and get that sun exposure, you're going to experience a high secretion of testosterone. And as such, this is the perfect time to get active in some way. Follow that with cold water therapy, either a cold shower, a cold plunge, jumping in a cold sea, and that's going to ensure the release of adrenaline. And then turn your focus to your nutrition. So I recommend, I actually recommend most people sort of intermittent fast, but if you are somebody that likes to eat, again, just try and sort of do it in that order. And if you don't practice cold water therapy, you are still going to sort of experience that release of adrenaline, but it won't be to the same level. Exercise really will optimize this release. So these are all vital stages for your internal rhythm. And when done consistently and layered in order as above, they really will begin to train your autonomic nervous system to settle into a natural yet optimized rhythm. And additionally, if you get the same amount of direct sunlight as the sun goes down, as I mentioned just now, so if you start watching that sunset, you're going to have further benefits. Research has actually shown that viewing these kind of incredible kaleidoscope-style sunsets provides a protective action to your nervous system, specifically against the negative effects of bright artificial lights, TV, handheld devices. We all know about that blue light that we need to be trying to avoid in the hours leading up to bed. But it's also going to serve as an instinctive reminder to your body clock that bedtime is beginning to approach. Those yellows, those oranges, reds, blues, they're signaling to your brain that now is the time to start winding down. Finally, around 2 hours before you go to bed, your blood pressure and your temperature will be at their highest. And as such, melatonin will be released. And this is going to sort of trigger a reduction in your body temperature. It's going to begin to drop between 1 and 3 degrees. When you wake up, obviously it rises 1 to 3. Before you go to bed, it's going to drop 1 to 3 degrees. And that drop in temperature is essential for you to fall asleep and stay asleep. So if you've done all of the above, once you eat your dinner, your nervous system should automatically shift from a balanced state to that parasympathetic rest and digest. And as your food begins to digest, this is where you want to be. And also it's where you want to be when you rest. The clue's in the name, rest and digest. And that's going to put you in the best possible position to fall asleep once you take your head to the pillow. Then it's just rinse and repeat. 2 hours before you wake up, the temperature begins to rise again, and you're ready to do it all over again. Now, it is very, very important to set a timetable and to stick to it. That means a consistent bedtime, wake time schedule, immediate sun exposure upon waking or within an hour of waking, as mentioned, and then followed by that movement, nutrition, and your body really will do the rest. If you ever go to bed later than usual, which is something that happens, obviously you go to a party or you go out for a meal or you go out with the kids for a cinema night and everything gets put out of sync, it's very, very important to stick to the same wake time. That's the most important part. And this is where obviously your internal clock is going to be activated. If you're tired the next day, a nap is far more beneficial than snoozing the alarm or laying in later and delaying the activation of that circadian clock. That really is the important part, getting that sort of sun exposure on the face as the sun's coming up and as you wake up. Now, I do have an article just being finalized that deep dives into sleep optimization. It goes a little bit deeper into sort of perfect sleeping habits, which I will at some point be recording too. And that will go into a far more in-depth explanation on the effects of snoozing. Basically, to tell you, it's very similar to the effects of jet lag. But we'll go into detail on that at another time. But if you could, any sort of comments, if you could like, share, and comment on this, that'd be much appreciated. I hope you enjoyed that introduction to your circadian rhythm. Believe me, try it for the next 10 days. I guarantee, cast iron guarantee, I guarantee you're going to see the benefits. And that's not just with regards to going asleep and staying asleep. Your energy levels, your focus, everything will be improved. And I will stake my life on it. Until next time, thank you very much for listening, guys. Really do appreciate the support. Like, share, comment. And if you haven't already, subscribe, man. Cheers, guys. Peace out.